So, when you said the rapist could only resist the hot Latina for so long, what did we mean by that, Alex?
Then again, Nikki is a hot Latina, so one can only remain strong for so long.
Remember how I said I'd upload again if I could find something to piss me off enough to talk about? Alex, if you're watching, this video is not an attack on you. It is not an attempt to cancel you. It is an invitation to introspect, one that I really think you should take. I left this long comment on my main account on Alex's apology video, but I'll repeat a little bit of what I said there, here too. Obsession is largely a litmus test, and I fear it is one that Alex has failed with flying colors. Right? Like, one of the things that stood out to me a lot in Alex's video is how he says quite a few times that Bear is not the misogynistic incel that people are painting him out to be.
Based on what people were saying about this movie online, I expected Bear to be this horribly angry, misogynistic incel dude, right? But up until this point, he's just some super socially awkward loser who has a crush on a girl. You have to look at the context, okay? If Bear had gone to the store specifically and been like, hey, do you have something that'll force a girl to fall in love with me? Or if he searched on the internet for some kind of weird ritual that's gonna make anyone fall in love with you, then yeah, that's some funky stuff, man. Or later on, we find out that maybe Ian and Nikki have been hooking up, right? But Bear doesn't learn this until the very end of the movie. So for example, if he'd found this out at the beginning of the movie and he was like, oh, so Nikki's just some slut that bangs every guy except me, huh? Well, I'll show you. Then yeah, he'd be some misogynistic incel. It really seems like some of you want him to be a horrible incel, intentionally malicious guy, regardless of what actually happens in the movie.
Alex, bud, he's a rapist. Could you please, for my mental health, explain to the class how a male character who repeatedly rapes and feels entitled to this woman is not a misogynist and not an incel? Not understanding why people are calling Bear a misogynist is like having a character who commits a lynching and then say, yeah, for some reason people were calling him racist. There is no one type of man who rapes, okay? Yes, Bear is not this cartoonish caricature of a Reddit incel. And that's the point. That is that's why people talk about the movie. If Bear was this obvious woman-hating creep from the beginning of the film, there would be no film. It would be boring. You would completely expect what's coming. It's the fact that Bear has this sad, soft boy exterior. He just wants his crush to like him back. And that's fine. That's a relatable point for a lot of people. That's why the movie opens that way. But he uses that sadness and emotion as a pass to do nothing but cause pain and suffering to Nikki because at least he gets what he wants. There is no one type of man, one type of incel. I've heard this sentiment repeated a lot. Particularly certain men will say well, those guys are out there. Those types of men are out there. They're not out there, friend. They're in your friend groups and they're in your mirror. Not accusing Alex of anything explicitly. I'm just saying people talk about rapists like they are always these obvious creeps who are rubbing their hands together, waiting in some alleyway to grab a woman and hold her down. And that's just not the case. More often than not, it is someone the victim knows. It is someone they trust. I actually lost a really good friend earlier this year because I found out that he thinks coercion isn't that bad, that we should see it from the guy's perspective and understand where he's coming from. And when I told him that was really devastating to hear him say, as someone who has been in a similar situation and he is aware of that, he said, oh, no, but, that guy, he was actually controlling and abusive, so your situation was different. Oh, girl, what if he wasn't? What if he was an otherwise great guy and you guys got along great and you really liked him? Then what? Then it doesn't count? Another issue in Alex's video is that he kind of talks about Bear taking advantage of Nikki like it's some opportunity that he passes up.
To Bear's credit, he's not immediately jumping at the chance to take advantage of her or whatever, and he refused to take advantage of her even when it was presented to him, right? I mean, she kissed him after all, right?
Do I need to explain this one? Why are we giving him credit? In your apology video, you say, I should have made this more clear. Bear is a rapist. Rape is bad. Then why defend a rapist? Why say, well, to give the rapist credit? I don't care that they didn't have sex that night. At least I don't think they did. A kiss, a grope, all of that is... I'm at a loss for words. I'm so, befuddled. I'm beatboxing. It's not just what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. You can't just throw on at the end, oh, but Bear's a bad guy. Oh, he's a villain. I'll acknowledge in the secondary short video after Backlash that he is a rapist. If at the end of the day you understand that Bear is a villain, Bear is a rapist, he is a bad guy, then why spend 20 minutes misspeaking and defending him? Right? Like, you can't just wrap up your terrible points with the antithesis of what you've been portraying and saying the entire time. It's something else that the friend that I had to cut off also did. He said some really egregious stuff, like, technically she said yes. Well, what if she's been withholding sex from him and he wants to bring it up in that moment? Or, yeah, it's a dirty tactic, but would we say rape? All this stuff, right? And then he wraps it up with, but consent should always be enthusiastic. Is there a name for this fallacy? Because it pisses me off to no end. You can't just make all these points and reasons and defenses for why something isn't that bad and then wrap it up with the antithesis of what you've been saying and then be like, no one can critique me. I did say he's a villain. I did, in a secondary video after I got backlash, acknowledge that he's a rapist and that rape is bad. It's disingenuous and very much comes across so. You said with your own words from your own mouth that you didn't think Bear is a misogynist. I honestly don't even think you thought he was really a rapist until you got so much backlash. Because who would spend 20 minutes defending a rapist? Another smaller thing I want to point out is that Bear does not become the villain at the end of the movie, okay? He's not a good guy right up until the end of the movie. Obviously, it's completely fair that Bear did not actually expect the wish to work. And I think it's honestly a bit of a straw man to say that that's what people are saying. I have not heard anyone arguing this point. But if Bear had known the One Wish Willow would work from the very beginning of the movie, he still would have used it. Because when he has the opportunity to free Nikki later in the movie, he doesn't choose to cancel it. He chooses to alter it. He likes that she is trapped. Bear is someone who enjoys overriding her consent. That is a rapist. That is a rapist's mentality. He doesn't become the villain at the end of the movie as much as we can finally see the villain he has always been on the inside by the end of the movie. There's just some lightning round stuff I'll go through really quick. Getting with someone who you think is high on drugs, out of their mind, acting oddly because they're on drugs is not above board. Repeatedly sexualizing and fetishizing Nikki's ethnicity is also you sexualizing and fetishizing her actor. I mean, do you get why people would be put off by you spending 20 minutes defending a character who is a rapist and calling the rape victim an irresistible Latina mommy? Irresistible? We're gonna call the rape victim irresistible? Do you understand why people didn't like that? And on that note, do you not feel weird calling a woman who is 13 years your junior mommy? Like, that's odd. That is a little odd, Alex. Don't make the same mistake as Bear. Bear has many obvious personality flaws, but a lot of them stem from the same root. And that root is he doesn't introspect. He doesn't reflect on his actions and consider how they're affecting those around him, right? When his cat gets into the pills, he doesn't say, oh no, how could I have left these out? He says, how did you get into these? When he makes his wish, he doesn't wish for more confidence. He doesn't wish for a second chance with Nikki. He wishes for her to change her behavior towards him. You compare yourself to Bear quite a few times in your video, not in depth, but like a casual offhand thing. You mentioned how you were also an awkward teenager, how not knowing how to talk to girls and fumbling the bag, story of your life. Introspect. Consider why you felt the need to defend Bear and give him credit so many times throughout your video, despite acknowledging that he is a villain and a rapist. Consider why you're receiving such a strong negative reaction. Ask yourself, why did I frequently call Nikki a hot Latina mommy and Sarah a hot septum mommy, instead of looking at them like characters with depth and nuance like you did for Bear? Consider why you kind of bring up high school a lot in your videos despite being an adult. I promise I'm not making fun of you and I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm genuinely inviting you to introspect on your opinions and actions and what is driving them. And then change. Don't just lampshade about it. Don't just joke about it and not do anything about it. Do what Bear refused to do. Attempt to grow. I know to your 4 million subscribers, it's just a movie and not that serious, not that deep. But to SA survivors, it is.